What's up, everybody? Welcome to the first official podcast of REI Transfer. I have a very special guest today, the man, the myth, the legend, Joe Potenza. What's up, brother? How are you?
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
For sure. And many people might know this from watching some of my content, but Joe is actually the reason why I'm in this space. So I actually met Joe on a flight from New York. We're both from New York City, and on a flight down, this guy just tapped me on my shoulders. And
I saw you open up Meta Ads Manager. I was like, yo, what are you doing over there?
Dude, I'm very thankful of that, because during that time, I think it was a very dark time in my life where I was just trying to figure out, I made some money, lost a bunch of money, and I was really trying to find a direction of hey, where do I want to take my career? And after meeting you, because I always loved real estate, I just jumped full force into lead generation for now investors full time, right? But dude, enough about, we can talk more about that in the future, but dude, can you tell everybody a little about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I am a full-time real estate wholesaler and investor. I also run a company called SM3 Marketing. We provide Google Ad services and consulting for real estate investors looking to scale. My story is I, went the traditional route. Mm-hmm. I, got a good job out of college. Hated my life though, was working on Wall Street, really wasn't for me. Got into flipping houses traditionally, did 1 or 2 house flips, was terrible at it. Got turned on to real estate wholesaling, built that up, kind of scaled myself out of that business today. Still runs, has a full leadership team in place, and now we're on to SM3 Marketing.
Dude, I love it. And when do you start the wholesale side of things?
So I bought my first house flip when I was 22.
Okay.
So I guess that would be the start of my real estate career. I didn't go full time till I was about 23, 24 when I ended up getting fired from my said job.
You got fired because you stopped caring? Or you quit?
No, I fully got fired. Joe, you're fired. Yeah, it was not a quitting. I was just terrible. I was a really just a bad employee. I always wanted to start a business, and so I just was clashing. I just didn't enjoy it, And so they ended up firing me, which was actually the best thing that could have happened to me, because I think with a lot of those super high income jobs, I graduated out of college with making 150, 160 grand my first year out of college with a job. For W2 world, that's fantastic. Mm-hmm. I think those jobs, they do a really good job of paying you just enough where you're above most of your cohort of friends, mm-hmm. right? And so you get lulled into the lifestyle, and then it becomes very hard to leave. And so what I was trying to do is I was trying to make it as an entrepreneur while working this job, but I was working 60, 70, 80 hours a week at the job, mm-hmm. which means I didn't have enough time to actually go all into real estate, and I kept wanting to. So getting fired really was kind of the best thing that happened to me, because it put my back up against the wall where I had to make it work. And so that's when wholesaling really, really clicked for me.
Gotcha. So you got into the model of flipping first, and then you went to, do you know what wholesaling was before you became
So I did my first ever house flip in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I'm from Fairfield, which is the town next to Bridgeport. The only time I've ever took money out for that deal. And actually, I took hard money out for 2 different deals, but the first 2 deals was the only time I've touched hard money. Since then, I've self-funded everything. Did that first house flip. We made $30,000. I did it with one of my best friends. And I didn't know of wholesaling at the time. I remember right when we finished the deal and we closed, and I was like, okay, we made a $31,000 net profit. Mm-hmm. I had watched a YouTube video of someone saying they made $25,000 on an assignment deal. Mm-hmm. They're like, yeah, it took 3 weeks. I'm like, I just worked for 6 fucking months renovating this house.
Right.
Because we were actually doing the work ourselves to save money.
I was going to ask you that next, yeah.
And after that, I was like, all right, I'm going to be a wholesaler.
You swung the hammer yourself the first.
Yeah, so my buddy, shout out RJ, his dad is a badass contractor, so he grew up kind of in the trades. So him and his dad were really heading that up. I had absolutely zero construction skills whatsoever, so my only job on that first house flip was in old houses, especially in the Northeast, when they used to lay tile in bathrooms, there'd be a 3-4 inch layer of concrete. Mm-hmm. They don't lay tile that way anymore. And so my job was with a mini jackhammer just destroying all this tile for 2 months straight. And so I'd work all week. Yeah. I would train home, hour and a half on the train from New York City to Connecticut where I lived, and I would stay at my mom's house, and I would just jackhammer at this bathroom. When I tell you I found out about wholesale, I was like, fuck this, I'm never flipping again.
Yeah.
it was a pretty easy decision on that.
Was it like a full-on jackhammer?
They have like, it's a smaller one, but yeah, it's like a handheld jackhammer. It was terrible.
I feel like you like knowing your personality. I feel like you have a blast the first day, and then afterwards it's like, oh damn.
Yeah, like the first like 30 minutes was fun.
Yeah.
And then when you're on like hour like 20 of it, it's not fun anymore.
For sure. And then once you discover wholesaling, you just jumped right in, and then you did it while you were still working your W-2, right?
Yeah. So the progression there was I sold that house flip, and I got into wholesaling. It took me like 13 or 14 months to do that first deal, right? So I was 23 now. I finally closed my first wholesale deal. I had originally started by trying to hire VA cold callers. Didn't get a single deal from it. I was just using my free cash flow from my job to pay this VA to try and find me wholesale deals. The first wholesale deal I found, I literally was driving by a house in Fairfield, Connecticut that was like half framed, kind of like looked super shitty, and I saw a guy walking out. So I pulled over, and he was the owner, and he wanted to sell it. And so I put that deal under contract. That was my first ever wholesale deal for $15,000. Once I figured out like the rhythm of it, I probably did a couple more deals, and I ended up buying what I was going to do a buy, renovate, refinance, repeat deal in St. Pete, which I still own today.
Yep.
Way too big of a project for me. It was basically a complete rebuild of a house. Like we were gonna have to reframe, repour foundation, like literally everything. Basically ground up construction, except because of the zoning, we couldn't actually tear the house down.
Okay.
And so we had to keep the remaining structure. Took on that project, which this is kind of building up to the catalyst of how I got good at wholesaling. Got way in over my head. Second time, so I'd taken hard money out. I end up getting fired from my job, which was the only way I was paying my contractor. I had ran out of money, so I didn't have enough money to pay the contractor. The house was literally half framed. So I get fired, I get red tagged. When you get red tagged, it means the city is fining you $150, $250 a day until the work gets approved by an engineer. But I didn't have enough money. This all happened in the same week. I was like, oh shit, this is like going south really quick. And so I started calling agents and other investors. I was like, hey, I want to punch out of this deal. Whatever, I started getting pricing. I was probably like $60,000 to $100,000 underwater on this property. Okay. So now I'm jobless. I can't afford my rent in the city. So I moved back into my grandmother's apartment because I couldn't afford to live. And I was $100,000 underwater.
Was she in St. Pete or?
No, she was in New York.
Okay.
So I moved into her apartment in New York, couldn't afford anything. And I remember just doing the math. I was like, okay, I could go try and get another job, which that was going to be hard inside of itself because I had just gotten fired. So I don't think I was getting any recommendations from my previous baking job, which in that world's like super important.
For sure.
And so I sat there in my grandmother's living room, and I actually started calling bankruptcy attorneys. And I was like, hey, like, I'm $100K underwater. Like, is this bankruptcy? Like, what do I do? Like, it was like the scene of Michael Scott. I was like, I declare bankruptcy. And so started laying out that plan of what it was going to look like for me to get out of this hard money loan, because I was like, I can't sell the house. I don't have enough money to finish the reno. My contractor walked off the job. The fines were stacking up from the city. And a part of the hard money I had taken, 50,000 of it was from one of my friends at the company I actually worked at, who I'm still good friends with today. And if it wasn't for that loan, I probably would have declared bankruptcy, but I felt so bad screwing him over that I was like, you know what? I'm going to try and figure this out. And so I did the math. I was like, well, getting a job, there's no mathematical possibility I could possibly even make $100,000. Even if I got a sick banking job, you're not going to make $100,000 in 2 months.
Not in New York, at least.
Yeah. And so I was like, all right, I'm just going to go really hard on real estate wholesaling. And that next 12 months, I probably worked like 100 hours every single week. Like all I did was SMS cold calling myself. And then I would sell the deals at night, and I did about $400,000 in net profit in that next 12 months, paid off that house, fully got out of that project, was able to refi, and then just took all that remaining cash. I had kind of seen the writing on the wall with TCPA laws, which we can go into the the more in-depth stuff with that.
For sure.
But I was like, I need to get out of SMS. I didn't want to get sued. And took all of that remaining $250,000 I had, poured it into Google Ads, figured out that system. And then once I had Google figured out, just continued scaling the wholesale business. Last year we did over 200 transactions. This year our goal is to do 7-8 million in revenue on the wholesale side. And, hopefully 2027 is our 12 million a year on wholesaling.
Let's fucking go, dude. I was very grateful of meeting you when I first got into space, because when I was introduced by wholesaling, the first person I met was you. So I've been off social media for about, I believe, 3 to 4 years before meeting you on that flight. And I think it was because of you I went back on social. So I wasn't indoctrinated by this whole like guru mentality of selling courses. I had no idea what that was. Now I'm like very much a part of like helping people scale offers and whatnot. I didn't realize how many people are broke in this space. But when I first met you, I thought everybody was going to be like you. So when you were telling me the revenue numbers that you were doing, I was like, dude, wholesaling out. So I was the end buyer because I had some investment property down in St. Pete already. But after getting to the space, it was completely 180 in a sense of like, no one was making money. There's only a very few guys, but obviously now we know. I'm just curious, what's your perspective on, are you able to get into wholesale real estate while being in another job, or that just, you're just scared, or you have to go full force? What's your mentality on that?
Yeah, it's a great question. Before I answer that though, what you hit on, in any industry, in any space, 2 to 5% of the industry makes 85% of all of the money made.
Yeah.
And so what you have happen, especially with low barrier to entry businesses like wholesaling, is you have hundreds, if not thousands of people who are, it's kind of like an agent, right? There's tens of thousands of agents, yet 1% make all the millions.
For sure.
Wholesaling is the exact same way. And so I think that's important for anyone getting into the space to realize that, guys, the people who get paid are the ones who persevere just a little bit longer than everyone else, right? You get paid disproportionately the better you get at one very specific skill. And so to answer your question, it's totally possible to work a job and do a couple wholesale deals. I think having realistic expectations about the work required is where most people, especially on social media, go wrong.
Yeah.
People see, guys on social media and they think overnight they're going to build a business that has a leadership team in place and runs without you and makes you $100,000 net profit a month. It takes years of working 70, 80, 100 hours a week, consuming everything you do, spending nothing but all of your free energy has to go to building you to be successful, and then you can step back. You can't get the scale without putting in the 2, 3 years, 4 or 5 years of super hard work to build a business large enough where you can support a leadership team to make enough money to run it for you.
No, for sure. Because it's the same thing with the agency space, right? So I started agencies first. I got into wholesaling a little bit just to understand the dynamics. Did a couple deals within the first year, and it was relatively easy. Unfortunately, I went nationwide. Now I own like a few houses, and like I have a North Carolina house now and St. Louis house, and I absolutely hate that idea. So we're now only in the Tampa Bay area.
Yeah.
But even then, I've just seen so many people, because running ads is relatively easy, right? So if you click on a button, you can watch a couple of YouTube videos to do it. But obviously, master the trade is going to be much harder. But there's a lot of people that's making less than like 10 to 15 grand, and after overhead, like you're pulling in like 3 to 5K a month. Right, totally. In profit, and that's not, unfortunately, you can't really live on something like that.
I think the early stages of wholesaling is you're looking to just hit your first $30,000 to $40,000, $50,000 deal, right? Like if I look at someone, let's say you work a job and you make $70,000 a year, and you want to wholesale. What you have to commit to is you need to make sure you're crushing your job, and then all of your extra hours are spent trying to do a wholesale deal. You're never going to get out of that job by doing a $10,000 or $15,000 assignment fee.
No.
It's finding the $50,000 deal where then you have enough money to kind of take that, pay for your lifestyle expenses for 6 months, and then go build the business.
Right.
Now, I think it depends also what kind of job you're in. Like a lot of, and this is more philosophical, what I'm going to say. I think a lot of people glorify entrepreneurship and don't realize that like a very small percentage of the population are really character trait designed to be an entrepreneur.
For sure.
And they think it's just this glorious path where you make tons of money. In reality, most people are not going to like it. And so I tell people, hey, especially if you're working like a sales job, if you're making 70 grand a year, the fastest way to just make more money is just to crush your sales job and get to 150, 200 grand a year.
Correct.
Right? Then you can go buy rental properties, which is another way to make a ton of money and get wealthy without the stress of being an entrepreneur, because it really is not for everyone.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people get into wholesaling because they want to at least one day become an investor. But dude, owning rentals, I've been seeing your content recently. I have a bunch of properties too. It's not a get rich quick kind of thing. The cash flows. Yeah, I have a unit that's generating me like 2K a month, which is phenomenal.
For everyone, that's super rare.
That's very, very rare. Like most cash flow, it's like what, $200-300, and then while your capex breaks, and then
you're lose money on a lot of my rentals.
You're fucked, dude.
I think what people don't understand about rentals is, let's say you cash flow $200 a month.
Yeah.
Your HVAC goes out. There goes your cash flow for 3 years.
Yeah.
Right. And to me, rentals is wealth preservation and get rich extraordinarily slowly. If it wasn't for tax benefits, I would never buy another rental property ever again.
I hate my residentials.
Now the tax benefit is the only reason most people actually buy rentals. It's not for cash flow. It's because you can use accelerated depreciation to then adjust your effective net income, right? Which then you get a return by not having to pay that tax margin. That's the only reason I buy rentals.
For sure. And for people who don't understand what accelerated depreciation is, it cost segregation. Like if you can just search up online and you ask your accountant how to do it.
Yeah, essentially in the tax code, which I don't know if you want me to get into this or how.
Dude, we can talk about anything here, man.
Okay. Yeah, essentially for anyone listening, in the tax code, you're allowed, let's say you buy a property, the tax code allows you to depreciate it over roughly 26 years. Accelerated depreciation allows you to accelerate all of your 26 years of depreciation into the first 2 years, which usually results in like a 20 to 30% loss, paper loss that you can show on your tax return. So if you buy a $300,000 property, roughly, again, don't quote me on this, you're going to probably get $75,000 to $100,000 negative loss on your tax return. So if you made $100,000 and you put that $100,000 into the property, because we can use leverage buying real estate, then you essentially don't owe your income tax on that amount.
And I love the title topic because a lot of people in our space absolutely do not invest. They have no clue what they're doing when it comes to real estate.
Yeah.
Agencies on the marketing side and wholesalers on the wholesale side. Most wholesalers I know don't even, they got $10,000 in the bank account. They don't own any assets. I'm just curious because I've always been tasked as a real estate professional. Are you able to still run a cost seg if you're not?
You can run a cost seg. You can't, if you're not, what you're referencing is called rep status, real estate professional, which is a tax classification. If you're not classified as that, you cannot use the depreciation against active income.
Gotcha. See, yeah.
That's the beautiful part about being a wholesaler is you do have rep status. And I think what you're hitting on with wholesalers is most wholesalers are flying by the seat of their pants. They don't have a system. They don't have a process. They don't have a consistent way to get leads, which is what you and I provide with our companies is, hey, we can build that consistency of inbound leads. Like building any business is essentially the same 5-step process. Step 1 is how do I get consistent leads and build an acquisition channel, right? As you build each of these pillars, different constraints in the business are going to break. What you and I solve for people is, hey, you can go figure out Facebook ads. You could go figure out Google ads. It's probably going to cost you a ton of money, and you're going to compete with guys like us who have tons of data. Instead, you could work with us, and we could have you get motivated leads day one.
Correct. And for the guys that are getting into, because your transition was, and I want to go back to this real quick because when you first started, you mentioned that your first year after getting fired, you were doing all the cold calling, everything yourself. I work with a few operators. Some are successful. Some, unfortunately, a lot of them don't do too well because this business is hard. And I tell them the chance of you succeeding with what I do is completely up to you, right?
Yeah.
Did you do everything yourself, or when was your first hire? Because a lot of people, in my opinion, hire way too fast before I feel like they're ready, and they want to just push away responsibilities before understanding how to swing the bat.
One of the biggest weaknesses for most wholesalers, the typical wholesaler archetype is typically someone who's very good at sales. They usually are not someone who's math-minded. To me, all of hiring decisions, all of investing decisions, when do I buy rentals? When do I take money out? When can I buy a watch? When should I be saving? Is just a calculation based on how much your business is spending. Oftentimes, because of social media, I think there's a lot of entitlement with anyone in our generation, 10 years below, 10 years above, right? Where everyone thinks this has to be really easy. And so for everyone who's getting their first couple of deals, just keep doing it all yourself because you get to then increase your cash basis, which then makes the hiring easier.
Right.
To me, you need probably 70, 80, 100 grand in cash before you make your first like American hire, in my opinion. You'll see people, they'll have $15,000 and then they try and hire someone. I'm like, dude, If you have one bad month, you're going to have to let this person go and then you're back to square one.
Correct.
And so for me, I'd rather go slightly slower, which is actually usually the fastest way to get big, is to just stay small and keep doing things yourself. Here's the thing that most people, and why most wholesalers suck, for lack of a better word, is no one actually wants to work hard.
No.
Oh my God, I got to work 80 hours a week. Yeah. That's like, I've yet to meet someone who makes $1 million plus net income a year who doesn't work all of their waking hours.
Right.
Like I've yet to find it. I've yet to find it.
And I think a lot of people don't understand the fact that the work hours never decrease. It's just it becomes more efficient because once we get to the point of significant cash flow where we can compress our margins to sustain the back end ops, you get to the point where you just start buying out the areas where you're just extremely inefficient. Like for me, I am not a numbers, I'm not a data guy. My first hire was an advisor of how to allocate my budgets because I like to buy fancy things. I like to go on like obnoxious vacations. And at one point he was like, dude, like you can be growing, like, do you want the house in the next 3 years or do you want it in the next 30 years? I was like, oh damn, if you put it like that, man, sure, yeah. But I agree with you in a sense of most people that want to become entrepreneurs is glorified, right?
Yeah.
They're super lazy.
I think what you're hitting on, and I post a lot of content about this, and I feel highly qualified to speak on this because I practice what I preach. I am such a big believer on living so far below what you could be spending on personal and lifestyle expenses.
Yep.
I, for years, lived in a house that I house hacked where my total living cost was $400 a month. I drove a Jeep Grand Cherokee that had 160,000 miles on it with 2 dents in the door. You couldn't even open the passenger side door. And I was making 70, 80,000 net a month. My business was doing 300,000 in revenue a month. I was taking home 70,000 a month and I did not increase my cost of living.
Yeah.
Before I bought my first watch, I had $1 million in cash before I bought a $10,000 watch. Now that's very extreme. Yep. But to me, that has allowed me to then pour so much reinvestment into my business, into my companies, into my rental portfolio, right? Where now at 29, I'm kind of like entering a new phase where I'm like, oh, I feel like I've unlocked that first level rich where it's like, okay, I could stop working tomorrow and my life is paid for.
Yep.
Like I have enough assets, enough real estate, enough stocks where I don't have to work. To me, I feel like I'm becoming the most lethal I've ever felt as an entrepreneur. Not only because I have these skills, but because I'm no longer playing the game from scarcity.
Yeah.
I'm playing the game because I'm like, oh, we were kind of good. Like we've reached that hierarchy of needs. That is solved now.
Yeah.
Now we can play the game to say, how big can we make this?
For sure.
Which is a very dangerous place to get, but you can do that even in the beginning. If you keep your cost of living to $2,000, $3,000 a month, get to 25K of net income a month, and you're like objectively rich, right? Like you could literally then sustain your life on 1 month's of income. Yep. You can pay for your entire year. If you live off 3K a month and you do 130K a month, boom, your entire year is paid for. Don't go buy the stupid shit, right? Because it sets you back and it also then makes you play the game out of scarcity, which people think the best time in entrepreneurship is when your back's up against the wall. I'd argue you make the worst decisions because you're making decisions on what makes you money tomorrow, not what makes you the richest in 3 years.
Correct.
Or 5 years. The longer you can extend your decision time frame, the bigger game you're playing, right? Like at my stage of business, I'm trying to make plays on bets that are 3 to 5 years down the road, right? I'm sure when I'm worth tens of millions of dollars, I'm trying to make plays that are in decades. When your back's up against the wall, you're like, well, how can I make money for tomorrow, even if that hurts my business in a year?
Correct. I love that because in the end of the day, when I first met you, funny enough, I was in the position of I made a lot of money very fast as I think 22, 23, 24. I pulled in almost $1 million of just straight cash revenue and profit. And then the next 2 years, I lost I think I even told you, like near 80% of it, right? The remaining money that I tied up was all in real estate assets, which I'm too lazy to, I can't just click a button and sell because the Dogecoin just crashed 30%. I'm trying to dollar cost average is something that's never going to make me any money. I mean, some people would make a lot of money from it. But meeting you and I asked you, I was like, dude, like, do you just Uber everywhere? Do you remember this?
Do I just what?
Uber everywhere. Because you explained to me during that time, you didn't have a car and we live in Florida. And a lot of people, like the average person, will feel like they will need a car in Florida.
Yeah.
You Ubered everywhere. And I was like, dude, you don't have a car? He was like, dude, the math doesn't make sense for me. I was like, this guy is fucking wired different.
I've just always been of the mindset of saving. I'm almost like the opposite, where I need now in my life to be like, you need to spend money. You need to go buy shit. You need to start enjoying things. Luckily, just my character traits, I never wanted to spend money. Like even today, if it wasn't for my fiance, I'd be fine living in the same apartment that cost me $400 a month. I'd be worth $10 million living there. It would not bother me in the slightest. But so yeah, and so like I just think, and social media has done such a disservice to people on this with the Lambos and the Rolexes and the high-rise apartments, and everyone thinks that's what is successful. What is successful to me is knowing you don't have to work anymore, or knowing that your wife or your partner or whoever never has to worry about money again. Like to me, that security is way cooler than any flashy thing. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for buying that shit, but buy that stuff when it's so insignificant to you that you can walk in, pay for it, and you don't even notice it on a credit card. Like if the $20,000 watch is going to stress you out and you're saving up for it, you cannot afford it. If you can go buy that watch and it's a week's income or a day's income, okay, yeah, then it's cool actually, because you can actually afford it.
But then once you can afford it, you're like, I don't really want to buy it. It's like, it's the trade.
And so for me, I set a number where I'm actively trying to spend. Right now, I live off about 10% of my total net income. I'm trying to spend 20% of my net income a year. That's my goal.
Okay.
And so I actually set the inverse where I'm like, Joe, you got to go spend more money this year. You got to go have some fun, go on some vacations, go do this, go buy some watches. Like I'm trying to spend more money because I also don't want to be so frugal that I'm known as the guy who just hoarded money all the time.
For sure.
Know? But for me, like what gives me the most value is spending money on paying for experiences for people, right? The most baller thing I think I've ever felt was sending my mom, my sister, my aunt, and my cousin on a 5-star vacation without me. That was like the most G shit I've ever felt, right?
I love it.
Paying for dinners, doing things like that, that actually gives me material happiness.
For sure. And the system's designed to make people distracted. And obviously we're in the marketing space, and I do want to really dive into that in a little bit. It's designed to make sure that you see everybody's trying to sell you something. People don't realize that. Everybody that has the Lambo online, their goal is to sell you something in the perceived value of to be like you. And I think you're very truthful to yourself in a sense of you tell everybody it is hard, which is extremely hard. This thing is not easy. And if you're not willing to kind of push away your momentary happiness and work those 100 hours weeks, you're not going to be a Joe. You're not going to get to the point. And is it okay to not be like you? I think it's completely fine as well. A lot of people see you and they're like, how can I get to where you're at in this amount of time? I think that's something that a lot of people have to shift their mentality. It's like, it's not about how you can become Joe.
Totally.
But it's like, how can you become the best version of yourself and a competition against yourself on a daily basis?
Without a doubt. On that, and we can clip this for anyone listening. If you're following a guy on Instagram who's posting Lambos and high-rises apartments and all that kind of lifestyle, if they don't show you their business, you are their only business. Just remember that. If they don't show you the business, you are their only business because they're selling you a course. And to me, especially in the wholesale space, there's so many just idiot scammers. Like there are a few good people out there who run real businesses. But to me, there's so many people, even in the marketing space, who are running and they're trying to pretend like they have a massive wholesale company. To me, that is so disingenuous. And the reason all of their clients churn, the reason they can't keep anyone in a coaching or info product is they're not actually providing value.
Right. Dude, I see a new TikTok wholesaler guru every single week. The average 19-year-old that did 2-3 deals.
Here's the game for social media. You have two routes. You either become interesting and impressive and you wait to post. Sometimes this can take 3, 5, 10 years. Sometimes it takes to be interesting, where you can gain followers almost instantly because you have a story that is worth telling. That's the road I took. I said I wanted to have an 8-figure real estate portfolio and I wanted to be making over $1 million a year net income to me. Once I cross those two thresholds, I feel credible enough to post about where I'm at. Sure enough, I do that. My following, blew up.
Yeah.
The other route is document that you are not yet there and show the journey. The problem is people want to do the fake it till you make it. That content will never grow, right?
You attract the wrong people.
You attract the wrong people. Like I'm thinking of certain people on Instagram who do a very good job of documenting, hey, I'm 22 years old. I'm going to start wholesaling. Follow me along on my journey. I'm not trying to teach you things. I'll just show you what I fucked up. That does very well as well. The problem is when you try and blend the two of document, but I also want to act like I'm flexing because I see someone else doing it. To me, that never works on social. Like, I actually think social is very good at weeding out the unauthentic people because they're not going to grow, or their company isn't going to grow. Whatever they're trying to sell is going to have super high churn. So I can always tell when someone has a bad product because no one stays with them, right?
I think a lot of guys in the wholesale space, when they're trying to post content, their angle is completely wrong. You're a huge social media guy. You have way more following. I always go to you for advice, and I'm lazy on social media. I need to get better at it. But a lot of wholesalers, when they post content, they talk to the wrong ICP, in a sense of they talk to a potential wholesaler that want to follow their journey, which leads into that's top of the funnel for info coaching, right? If in my opinion, if you're a good wholesaler and that is your actual business, most wholesalers' business will be, their Instagram should be completely different.
I agree.
How would you structure actual wholesale content? If that is your business and you want to provide value in that sense, how would you structure it?
Yeah, if you're someone who's actually a successful wholesaler, it's very easy to make content because you just show your deals, you just show your company, you show your act team, you show what your scripts are working, right? Like, that's kind of the model I went. When all the time on my story, I'll just post, hey, here's the company, guys. Like, I'm not trying to represent that my company does 25 million a year. I'll tell you exactly what we did last month. The authenticity is the key. The other option is, if you're a beginning wholesaler, just document, hey man, I'm trying to do this deal. People love that kind of content, right? Just don't blend the two and try and be doing your first couple wholesale deals and then teaching people how to wholesale.
Right. But do you think it's like the sense of like the content they're posting, they're just trying to grab the wrong type of, like, because in the end of the day, it's lead gen to a certain way, right? I feel like if your business is in wholesaling, your content will be structured towards, number one, getting JV, right? Saying that, hey, you're a reputable person, like you're able to waive inspection contingency within the first 48 hours. Like, most cash buyers, they do that.
Yeah.
Most wholesalers, they put a $100 EMD and then they, retrade on the last week before it closes. So I feel like the content should be more in a sense of driving leads, in a sense of JV deals, or to the seller, the homeowners themselves.
Yeah, I think what you're hitting on is you just need to think of what the intention of posting content is. Right? If you're just posting content because you want followers and you're not rich and you're trying to wholesale, one, it's just a terrible use of time. Right? I know people who, and I've talked with certain, younger guys where I'm like, dude, stop posting. Like, what are you going to gain? Even if you try and sell an info product, you don't have the actual experience to make the info product worth something.
Yeah.
And so your utilization of time is just incorrect, right? And so I think the key is auditing what is most important. How much money do you want to make? If you think there's a world where you could do that by generating leads on social media, then figure out what organic content strategy fits that. Most times, you're not going to make very much money from social media.
No.
You're better off spending all of your energy building a very strong wholesale company and then posting later. This goes for any industry. Build something impressive, and then it's super easy to grow on social media.
For sure. And then because I want to take it back a little bit, because I do have a question on this. So how do you get into the St. Pete market? Because I know you were in Connecticut. Like, do you just go virtual? Like, I was like, I really like this market. Or like, what brought you here?
Yeah. So I had started virtual wholesaling, and I met one of my business partners in a scam Facebook group. Like, we paid for a course. And
is it a scam then?
I got value. Shit. I met one of my business partners who's a great dude, become one of my close friends. We built a badass company together. Yeah, we've made tons of money.
Before we get into the story, I always say I have never been scammed by a course, even though I know the course was a scam. I've always somehow gotten value from everything, whether it's people, whether it is some type of information, or even knowing, hey, this is terrible information.
Yeah.
I think that's value in itself, right?
Without a doubt. Half of the battle of figuring out how to make money in any industry is just fucking things up and then being like, well, I fucked that path up. I'm not going to do that again.
Yeah.
I think people vastly underestimate the importance of just taking action, messing things up, and saying, okay, well, I'm not going to do that again. You get punched in the face. Well, I don't want to, I'm going to, slip that punch next time. And so I just think that's super important. I totally forgot what you asked.
How do you get into St. Pete market?
Oh, how'd I get in? So
virtual.
Met one of my now business partners, great guy. He was posting in the Facebook group. We started talking on Facebook, and he lived in St. Pete. And I'd always thought maybe I'd move to Miami. I always knew I wanted to get out of the cold. And simple, political rent policies are not exactly favorable in the Northeast.
No, no.
And so I knew I wanted to buy and build a rental portfolio in a red state because the laws are more favorable to landlords. Yeah. Better investment. And so I always thought I was going to move to Miami, got turned on to St. Pete. He ended up selling me a deal and came down here, fell in love with it.
Love it, love it. Would you recommend, like, was it difficult for you to do virtual off the bat?
I think virtual is, obviously I'm biased because my entire business model is virtual.
I think economics, it makes sense.
I think it's easier to scale. You can get lower cost per lead.
Correct.
You can get lower cost per contract. Most people struggle with the virtual model because they don't want to build really good operating procedures.
Right.
The more variance you have in your business, the tighter your SOPs need to be. And so with running 30 different states, you need very clear disposition processes. How do we open up an email with the title company, et cetera? And that's a lot of what we do with SM3 is we can provide that insight to our clients, not just running the ads, saying, hey, you can run the ads, but if you have broken wholesale systems, you're probably not going to make any money. We can fix those for you, right? And so we give a lot of our industry know-how organically to our clients because we live and breathe it.
No, I love it. And that's the thing with virtual. I think I tell all my clients this, if the reason why you can't sustain a virtual model is because, number one, your operation is probably messed up.
Yeah.
Because in the end of the day, I want to hear your philosophy on this. And me and you never really talked about wholesaling since, honestly, we really met. Like, I don't really go to you for wholesaling advice and stuff like that, but I want to hear your opinion on this. I think wholesale is a service-based industry. I think you get compensated not because you treat somebody like a contract, you treat them like a client, right? If a homeowner needs your help, you're essentially a broker to helping them out in some type of way. I think with a virtual model, it makes it very, very hard for a company to be able to provide the same type of service they can in a local demographic than it is to a nationwide demographic.
Without a doubt.
And that's why most people mess up. It's not because they're poor at underwriting. And that's what people tell me, oh, because how am I supposed to do this if I can't underwrite the property? Dude, you have fucking AI nowadays. Just go pop this shit on Zillow or something, you know?
Yeah, here's what I'll tell you. And I would argue, maybe the most amount of data in a short period of time on big wholesalers because of SM3 now.
Yeah.
Not only do I have my own company's data, but I have all of my clients' data.
Sure.
I will tell you, we have probably one of the lower churn rates of like any agency.
Yeah.
The people who churn, they're always the tiniest clients, and they always blame everything on something that's not their fault. Well, the marketing's bad because my lead backed out before closing. So we got you a deal that assigned for a 30 pop, and then you're blaming the marketing that the seller backed out before closing. Or do you have a terrible transaction coordination process?
What, they don't have one.
How have you followed up with this? Oh, you haven't contacted the seller in 3 weeks up until closing and they're not calling you back? That's so weird. The way you fix that is you have to take extreme ownership of everything in your business. Yep. If sellers are backing out, it is your fault. It has nothing to do with the seller. You made them uncomfortable. You did not become the source of reason and the source of truth and the source of comfort through the transaction. And so what you hit on is providing an incredible service is what my wholesale business does immensely well and why we grow every single year. People are like, the market slowed down last year. We had our best year. Every year we've grown by like 30, 40% every single year I've wholesaled. Because we put such an emphasis on treating sellers like human beings and providing really good service.
Yeah.
But I want to hit on this, and I talk shit online all the time about this. The small wholesalers, everything is someone else's fault. You probably have people who come over to you from another lead provider. Well, the marketing sucked. Like, or do you not follow a script? Do you not have an exact process? Do you train your salespeople, right? Are you practicing your script? Do you have good energy? So much of building a business is understanding that these things you think are other people's faults are actually your own responsibility to build a business that solves those problems. Sure, we have difficult sellers. Cool, let's build a follow-up sequence that has someone twice a week calling the seller and just asking them, hey, do you have any questions? I'd love to get anything answered for you.
Correct.
That prevents them from going to Google, going from somewhere else and trying to figure out these answers, which then maybe they get, nervous or uncomfortable, or they call another wholesale company, which is probably the most common thing that happens.
No, and I don't wholesale as much as you guys. We do some, we have a couple of deals in the Tampa Bay area just because I want to purchase more over here.
Yeah.
But I tell my clients all the time. Last year, I think I had a young lady here named Charlene, super phenomenal operator. She's just starting out. she had a deal out in, I believe, Arizona, and then it fell out last minute because it was a VA loan sub too. And the guy fell out because he didn't understand, like, oh, how do I transfer? Like, how am I supposed to get another loan if I can't close right now? Well, that's the reason why they left. And then she was blaming the model of virtual not working in the beginning. And I asked her, I was like, ask yourself, do you know how he's supposed to get another loan? She's like, no. I was like, so what? You have a shit ass product. You have a shit service, and you never frame the expectations.
Yeah.
And now he realized at the end that he got sold into something that you don't even understand. What would you do if you were in a situation? And she said, oh, wow. So she actually stopped her whole operation for 2.5 months just to learn everything she can about every single one of the exit strategies.
Good.
So she can actually provide value for this and the service to the clients.
I love that. Yeah, I think any wholesalers listening to this, if you're small, the reason you're probably not growing is you're blaming other people.
Yeah.
When in reality, the reason you're not growing is you suck at wholesaling. And the way you get better at wholesaling is admitting you suck, figuring out what is breaking in your business, which just look at where the biggest problems are. Are your sellers backing out? Can you not sell any deals? Whatever that may be, you look at what's the biggest problem and then say, okay, what can I control that would reduce this problem? Mm-hmm. That is all building any businesses. That's how we've grown SM3 marketing so fast. Yep. We know how to do it through the wholesaling. So we say, okay, where's our biggest constraint right now? We're going to put all of our energy onto working on that constraint. I'm a big believer in the theory of constraints, which is that there is only one problem that exists in any business that trumps everything else. And you should spend zero energy on everything else and 100% of the energy on that one problem. And once that one problem is fixed, something else is going to break upstream.
Correct.
And then you go fix that one problem.
For sure. And even the past couple months, even for my own agency, we're able to acquire front-end clients at like a 2.5 to 3x. And that's great.
It's amazing.
But I stopped increasing marketing spend because of the fact that I need my back-end operations. Like I need to sustain back-end ops.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Right. And it's like, until I'm happy with that, I know that everything is a seamless, well-oiled machine. Like I can't ethically just increase because I'm just going to create more problems for myself.
Yeah, if you could go spend more on new client acquisition, but then if you increase your churn rate, what's the point of acquiring a new client?
There's no point.
Yeah,
and it's like you're in this constant loop, right? But I think another reason why a lot of new wholesalers fail is because they got so into a lie of how cheap this business model can be in order to start it. Dude, every single player that I work with that are actual players, dude, it's expensive. We spend a lot of freaking money on front-end traffic. It's a lead gen game. Right. So how do you feel about that? Like, what do you think is the required monthly budget to even sustain a lifestyle?
Yeah. I think for our two, obviously you run Facebook ads, I run Google ads. Google has a higher threshold, I would say, of minimum budget.
Sure.
For Google, I usually recommend people running between like 6,000 and 8,000 a month. And I tell people you want to be able to keep the account on for 3 to 4 months. If you can run a 6,000 to 7,000 a month budget, really 8,000 is my sweet spot. If you can run 8,000 a month for 3 months, it's very hard not to become positive. What most people do is they run $5,000. The cash conversion cycle in wholesaling is 45, 60, 90 days sometimes, and then they quit. Mm-hmm. And so for you, I think it's probably what, $2,000-3,000 a month on Meta?
The thing with Meta is that it's an easier platform for barrier to entry, and it's easier for success. In my opinion, and this is like a marketing philosophy, right? Meta is top of the funnel, no matter what, is higher than Google, right?
It's disruption marketing.
Correct. So your CAC will inevitably, if you understand your process and if you're good enough, your CAC will always be Google. That's my philosophy because it's just top funnel. But it's extremely hard to convert top funnel. So that's the caveat, right? Barrier to entry is easier and you can make it more successful, but it's actually way harder than it is for Google to succeed. Let me hear I want to hear this.
I'll push back.
Do it.
To me, Meta is a wonderful strategy in the beginning.
Yeah.
I think Meta is a very hard strategy to spend 100, 200,000 a month. Because when anything is, we're going to get nerdy marketing here for everyone.
That's the point, dude.
In marketing, there is two different things. There is disruption-based marketing, and then there is intent-based marketing. When anyone watching this will see my ads all over Instagram. I am disrupting your day. When you see a Facebook ad, it is disruption. You did not intend to find the ad. We're trying to find people who we think we may like it. YouTube, disruption. Mm-hmm. Cold calling, disruption. Intent-based is trying to put an ad somewhere where someone is actively intending to find that. So when my Google ad, someone types sell my house fast, they wanted to see my ad and we are providing that solution. When there is extreme pain, this goes for any marketing. Think of someone who has a hole in their roof.
Yep.
You're not selling roofing by a reel on Instagram if the water is pouring in. Google finds the people in the most pain and places that ad at the top. What that does, you are right that the CAC could be lower, which is why I think Meta is a good strategy in the beginning. The problem is you need more leads.
Yes.
At more leads, let's say it takes 30 leads to get a Meta contract, but it takes 10, which may even be a higher ratio, 10 for Google. Let's say I have 10 salespeople. When you're running that by yourself, 30 leads a week, fine, you get one contract.
Yep.
If you have 10 salespeople, you need 300 leads and I need 100. To me, that increases sales team complexity at scale.
Yes.
And so for everything I build, especially with wholesaling, I want to build companies that can create enterprise value and have a management team that runs them so I can go build other stuff or free up my brain to figure out how we get to $1 million a month or $2 million a month. That's why I prefer Google over Meta. Now, again, I want to be clear here. Meta is still awesome in the beginning. Like I think Meta is a very good strategy for smaller budgets.
Right. I agree in a sense of Google will be the highest intent traffic if you're new in the space and you have the budget to be able to allocate at least, I would say 30,000 for the quarter.
I agree.
Do Google first because it will be faster for success. The velocity of cash is no matter what going to be faster because they're more warmed up marketing, geek stuff, bottom of the funnel, right? They're ready and they have the pain. They're searching because they have the intent. But in my opinion of marketing, the goal why the best marketers in the world, right? The Disney, right? The Apples, they create. So this is the philosophy I tell a lot of people on my sales calls in a sense of when you walk into the Apple store, you're indoctrinated to believe a certain way. And by the time you walk in there, you don't have sales assassins calling you 30 seconds before you opt in order to get that sale on the MacBook. You come in pre-nurtured to be able to purchase. Disney, they have the Springs. They have the Disney Plus that's free. They have an ascension model where belief is indoctrinated to believe that, hey, we need to save up to go to this park. Within that park, there's an Illuminati status of the park. They have the cruises.
Yeah.
So I think with Meta, what most people doing it wrong is treating it like Google in a sense of I put an ad in front of somebody, I fill out a form, I bombard them with calls, expecting them to convert the same ratio as Google. You're stupid. Like it doesn't work like that. Meta is top of the funnel. We target in a sense of a person with a problem where situation. If anybody is into marketing, read this book called by Eugene Schwartz called Breakthrough Advertising. It talks about the awareness stages of somebody going through their journey, right? It's like us waking up, not feeling hungry, and we're unaware of hunger, all the way to the point that we decide to eat maybe sushi tonight, right? You go through problem, aware, solution, product, and most, which is a purchase. So when we structure our Meta funnel, and I believe that when it's done correctly, you're supposed to indoctrinate belief within that cash conversion cycle, not using physical human labor, but you retarget them with objection handling proof to create that trust over time to build raving fans. And I think that's the biggest difference between traditional Meta lead generation and people selling you PPL leads, like that's pay per lead, versus you creating a system where anybody even tell a lot of my clients this, and I refer you a lot of clients too in a sense of if you're doing Google, 1 out of every maybe 10 clicks becomes a lead, right? You pay for every click. But 9 of those leads had the same intent. What are we doing with that data? Are we capturing it? Are we putting it into an ecosystem where we can nurture them, right? I think that's the power of Meta, not so much in a sense of, hey, I need to make money today.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. Like I think what you just hit on, 1, Meta retargeting is fantastic. 4, what you just described, you could run PPC and then retarget them on Meta for the people who didn't convert. That's great. I also think for companies that are more local, that are trying to create more of an omnipresence marketing, that becomes even more important.
Correct.
The Meta side, because then you are the brand name and you're, like you're saying, you're basically indoctrinating them that they're the potential buyer. I mean, I'm obviously still pro Google because I think it's better for wholesaling, but I want to say something for everyone listening. If you suck at doing SMS,
Yeah.
PPC isn't going to solve your problems. Meta's not going to solve your problems. Like, people think marketing is the silver bullet.
No.
You need to become a good this goes for any business. You need to be good at your business, and then marketing works. Yeah. There's not a marketing channel that makes you good.
Correct.
And so in wholesaling, there's multiple ways to skin a cat. Like, you can make tons of money with all of the different strategies. The key is taking ownership that the strategy may not be the problem.
No, for sure.
The wholesaler's business is probably the biggest constraint right now. Now, don't get me wrong. There are terrible ad providers. Like, there's terrible people running meta ads. You are not one of them. That's why I tell people, if you're going to run meta ads, it should be with you. Like to me, there are people who run terrible ads. There's people who run terrible Google ads. Like, I see them, I'm like, holy shit, like you are just losing people money. But it's the people who never wholesaled, who never understand any of this stuff, who are just learning from YouTube and they're testing with their clients' money. To me, that's so disingenuous. The reason people love working with us is I'm like, hey, I'll just show you my ad account that I'm spending 140,000, $4,000 or $5,000 a day in right now for my wholesale business. I'll just run the same thing for you.
For sure.
If it works for me, it can work for you. And if it's not working for you, we'll help fix your system, because we know what's working in our business.
We actually took that one out of your books for our internal company. The only reason why I even put money aside for the wholesale ops side is because of the fact that, hey, if I'm going to test campaigns, I'm going to use my own money.
I love that.
Because I think it's just super unfair for me to use somebody else's budget to be able to test what's potentially working right now.
Guys, I'm going to stir up a little drama with some competitors right now. I won't say any names. A lot of other competitors in the Meta and Google ad space don't wholesale. And if they did, they never did it at scale, and they don't do it in a big level, and they're testing with your spend. That's just the truth. They're signing y'all, and they're testing new strategies they don't know work with your spend.
Let me ask you this, Joe. If you were to hire a company like ours, what are some of the key questions that you will absolutely have to ask this individual?
Obviously, I'm not just trying to plug SM3.
No.
But to me,
I want to make sure people don't get. I don't give a jack's ass if you work with me, dude. There's a lot of people that don't want to work with a loud Asian dude, and there's some people that don't want to work with the lion hair Joe. Right? But in the end of the day, my goal is to not take. There's enough market share to go around. For
you did tell me I should run some ads without me in it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I literally said I think there's a racial demographic people like assimilate to, and then if you use your face all the time, you're just going to capture your audience. That's a whole different story.
Yeah.
But I truly believe there is a place.
So I'm going to answer that question as bluntly as I can of why I think. And again, SM3's numbers a bit more than some other people. We've grown tremendously fast.
You guys are monsters, dude. I respect it so much.
Tremendously fast. I think we've been fully in business for like 8-9 months now. Yeah. We have a very easy sale for two reasons. One, we post good organic content that is genuinely trying to provide value.
Yeah.
I genuinely just share what I think is working in the wholesale business. The other thing is, when people come to us, we have the wholesale brand where we're like, hey, here our business closes about 600 to maybe like 700,000 a month in assignments every single month. Here's our P&L. We run it at about a 30% profit margin. Here's what we spend on ads. Here's what we spend per acquisition rep. Here's our P&L. To us, our sales process is extremely educational, where the people who don't even close with us get so much value even on our sales calls, because we're vetting them. Mm-hmm. And so I think that has been our superpower of growing this business, is me being able to say, hey guys, we just really do this. I don't know how to make a 12 million wholesale company. I'm working on that. Yep. Right. But I do know how to build a 6-7 million a year wholesale company. And I can help you do the same by giving you the exact playbook and ads that we use.
No, for sure. And I don't think people understand how hard it is to build a sales-based business to the revenue that you guys have, because you're solving a whole different type of, like your issues are completely different in a sense of, in the beginning, you can't just be an amazing salesperson and you have good leads coming in.
You can make a couple $100,000.
I don't, from that. Like what you said before, dude, I know guys that do SMS and cold calling, and we have our own reasons why we do inbound. I think it's just like asking for a lawsuit later on. But I know guys doing like $250,000 a month as a solo person.
Let me hit on this, because people hate when I talk about this, and I bet some people click off of this video when they see this clip. If you are running SMS or cold calling there is a very high chance you are opening yourself to massive TCPA exposure.
Yeah.
What I mean by that, guys, is you can be sued for things you did 3 to 4 years ago in total aggregation of everything you've done, not one person. I know people in the industry who have been hit with suits. We're talking multi-six-figure payouts that you owe. And so for all the young guys out here running SMS, if you are not being extraordinarily compliant, and even with being compliant, doing data scraping, making sure you don't have DNCs, even then, you are still opening yourself up to multi-six-figure suits. My belief is with the way the laws are going, all of outbound is dying. If not already dead, because you are going to get sued. And if you think you haven't been sued yet, just know you could be 2 years into your career and you get a lawsuit from something you did 3 years ago.
Yeah.
That is why I preach inbound marketing. Meta, Google, anything where you get consent, clearly the government wants us to have that consent.
Correct.
And so I am not trying to mess around with that. Now with Meta and Google, you can run a solo shop and make multi-six-figure a year of net income.
Yeah.
Now, I want to be clear, guys. If you want to make $300-400 grand a year wholesaling by yourself, you are working 80, 90 hours a week. You are losing sleep most nights. You're dealing with sellers calling you at all hours. Your life is absolute hell. And I'm telling you this because I lived it. There is nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with it. Thank you for saying that, please.
I got you.
Yes.
I got you.
I think they need that, actually. Most people need it.
You need to understand the trade you're making. And that's why I encourage a lot of people to, hey, there's also nothing wrong with figuring out how to make 150, 200 grand a year as an entrepreneur or a salesperson within a company. You probably work 45, 50 hours. You probably work 50 hours a week to make that level of income, but you have way less stress.
Correct.
So yeah, you can make double the amount of money, but you're going to give up 2 years of your life. It's going to be absolute hell. The key is with your extra income, not buying a Lambo or a Rolex and using the extra income to build enough scale where you get yourself out of the day-to-day. I haven't spoken to a buyer, seller, or title company in 2 or 3 years. Not a single one. Millions of dollars in assignment fees. The only reason I am still energized to continue building a wholesale company is I got to scale fast enough.
Yep.
We don't just grow companies to make more money. We grow companies to have enough free cash flow to pay badass leaders to run the business for us.
For sure.
And so what you were hitting on is now what I'm dealing with is how do we work on leadership development? How do we work on sales team training? How do we have a bulletproof retention process? How do we have a really good hiring funnel where we're bringing badass killers in who can make 150, 200 grand a year, have a great quality of life, and then want to excel into leadership?
Yeah. And I think a lot of entrepreneurship is super glorified to make it seem easy, right? And I think one of the biggest things that me and you have talked about is understanding hiring, understanding culture, understanding how to lead, right? One of my biggest regrets in life was never working long enough in a corporate structure where I could absorb how that process is created. They have a hiring machine. And I always tell a lot of my buddies now, even if they're working 9 to 5, they want to go into entrepreneurship. I was like, don't jump ship too early before you're ready, number one. Number two, you're in a multi-billion-dollar company. Go chill with the HR people. Understand how their hiring process works. Absorb that information so you can speed run this game of entrepreneurship so much faster than me.
Sure.
If you can just understand that part.
I agree.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, when they hire, right, they try to hire the money-making activities first because it's the ones that's the hardest. I see a lot of wholesalers messing this up on. What do you think is the natural progression of hiring out staff?
Here's how you hire. Assuming you have enough cash to run your business for 3 to 4 months, then you are cash approved to hire, right? That's step one. Do we just have enough physical liquidity to maintain this new increase in OpEx? The next question is, what do I suck at? If you are great on the phones, don't hire an AC agent.
Yes.
You need to spend your time. This goes for any stage of an entrepreneur. You need to determine what your highest revenue generating activity is, even if you don't like it, and figuring out how to do more of that. So if you're really good at dispo and TC work, hire your AC agent. If you're really good at AC, stay on the phones and hire a dispo. You hire counter to what you suck at. And that's how you build the business initially.
Exactly. I think a lot of people do the complete opposite and they tank their revenue and they're in this hamster wheel because they hire because they want to hang out. They want the Lambo. They want the vacation. It's like, hey, I made 40 grand this month. let me hire the one thing that's making me money. And then unfortunately with real estate, I explained to a lot of my clients is that our velocity of cash is typically 65 to 70 days. What you do today is going to lead to results in 65 to 70 days. What you don't do is also, you're going to see in 65 to 70 days.
Yeah. With that, and I feel like I'm taking a lot of jabs at young wholesalers, so I want to make this clear. The intention of this is actually to help you, even if it hurts your feelings.
It's supposed to hurt your feelings.
What most people do wrong in every business is they simply switch everything too soon.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to run with an ad agency for 60 to 90 days. Okay, cool. There's no world you're successful. There's no world. I'm going to hire someone. If they don't work, I'm going to let them go. You need, whatever you're going to do. Let's say you're going to sign up with you to run Meta. You're going to run for a year. You do things in year-long commitments now because you're not letting your skills compound fast enough. If you go to hire an acquisition agent, cool. You're going to give yourself a year to figure this out. Not 60 days, not 90 days. If it doesn't work the first one, you start hiring immediately again. And you keep learning, you keep solving the same problem. Stop changing the problem you're trying to solve. Right? Like that's the biggest thing in entrepreneurship. I literally post this on my story. The key to making a lot of money is to stop changing the problem you're trying to solve. Just change the way you're solving the same problem. That is all making money is. It's that simple.
No, I love that, Joe. And that's the reason why I respect you so much. And because the second I met you, the energy was different, but the way you think was different. I think that's what really makes a true entrepreneur, right? In the end of the day. So personally, what's the goal right now? Because I know right now your wholesale company is well functional. You told me, are you guys still doing it virtual?
Yeah, we're fully virtual. So, well, when I say that, we virtually wholesale our deals. Half of our company is in office, half the company is remote. I'm pretty open on social media about my goals. Right now, I want to get the wholesale company this year. I want to do 7.5, 8 million assignments and novations, right? Above 30% margin. That's the goal for the wholesale company. I want the wholesale company to continue growing year over year at minimum 30% growth rates with my leadership team growing it. The reason I want that business to grow, I don't need any more money from that business. I want it to keep growing because I want all of the team members in that business to have enough opportunity to create their hopes and dreams in life from this entity. To me, that is what a successful entrepreneur does. And that is actually what makes me the wealthiest because then that business has enterprise value. If this beast, which we're kind of getting there, is growing without me. Like it's one thing to have a company function without you. Imagine your company grows at 25, 30% a year and you work less than a few hours a week. That's the goal for wholesaling. SM3 marketing is the, I would say, newer project that I'm spending a lot more of my energy on. It's growing ridiculously fast. We want to grow that, take that as far as we can go with that. And then the final bucket of like my wealth, I would say, is just continuing to buy rental properties. What we did is we hired a full-time property analyst that sits adjacent in the wholesale business, looks at our wholesale pipeline all day and is just acquiring rentals for us and running our rental portfolio. To me, I've done a lot of different investing. I do a lot of LP investing, but I've done multifamily and single family, like my own purchases. I actually am swinging back where I like single families more.
Really? Okay.
I think the liquidity is better. I love how easy they are to trade in and out of. They, like, to me, when something goes wrong, it's less cataclysmic. And so just like wholesaling, oh, it's too hard to scale. I'm like, well, I'm kind of scaling wholesaling, which gives me a competitive advantage to acquire single family homes at a discount. Why don't I build a scalable single family acquisition pipeline? And so that's kind of my universe right now.
Dude, I love it. On the acquisition side of things, are you guys buying nationwide? Or are you guys primarily in the Tampa area?
For rentals?
Yeah.
We only buy Florida, Virginia, and Ohio. If anyone sees this, and you got Virginia, Ohio rentals or Florida rentals, send them to me.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things people don't realize for the real estate rental game, because a lot of wholesalers that are going to be watching this were experienced guys, the end goal is always to invest in real estate, right? We wouldn't be doing this activity if we didn't enjoy real estate. How many units do you feel like it's at the point where you can start treating it like a business?
It's a really good question. I don't know the exact unit count. Like, I'm also learning I'm not the best real estate investor. Like, I never had a crazy rental property 10 unit that makes me $1 million. Like, I've never found those deals yet. So I'm learning I'm pretty good at the sales team marketing side of entrepreneurship. I'm still trying to get better on the investor side of the game. What I will tell everyone, until you are making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in free cash flow, like I'm talking net income is over 300, 400, 500 grand a year, You do not buy rentals. Wholesalers, if you're getting your business off the ground, stop buying rentals. It slows you down. That's one of my biggest regrets is I bought too many rentals along the way, and it kept hamstringing where I could be today if I just focused on building the active income. If you guys can get to $100,000 net income, and I know some people might be like, that's insane. If you can make 1.2 million net income a year consistently, believe me, you can buy as many rentals as you want after that. The key is not doing them at the same time, which is what I did wrong. I would be where I'm at now in my income journey 18 months, 2 years ahead of schedule if I stopped buying rentals. And so even now, the only reason I'm doing it is because we now have a property analyst. I stopped for like the last year where I bought so many less rentals than I could be buying. So I was like, yeah, look, I'm just going to keep figuring out how to double my income each year. That makes me way more money than an extra $200 free cash flow a month.
Right. And it's pretty cool because like you being good at one thing is leading you to other things as well.
Yeah.
And
that's how SM3 marketing was born.
Yeah. You guys outlapped us very, very fast and very hard. And I'm like, dude, you're a beast, Joe. And I think I'm pretty freaking good at what I do. But then I'm going to pay respect where it's due, dude.
I appreciate
you
that.
guys freaking crushed it. But also you guys have the experience. And
the brand pays dividends of just being big wholesalers, you know?
For sure.
I think the other thing, and again, like, I say this with all respect to all my competitors out there. I'm sure everyone's nice guys. This is all just fun and game and the man in the arena competitiveness. If you were really good at wholesaling to everyone I'm talking to, and they say they're wholesalers, then why don't you still wholesale? Right? Like if you grew this marketing company, why not? Like, I love that you're still wholesaling because you're good at it. Right? To me, I always take a pause when someone's like, well, I used to wholesale. Now I have this other info product company. And I'm like, if you're really that good, why not just hire a leadership team to run that wholesale company? Why not own both?
Right.
Still an asset. Here's the key. It was never an asset.
No.
It was just a job.
I think a lot of people don't understand you can be decent at wholesale just by understanding sales and marketing. Just having a basic understanding of like how to
That's all it is. It's not even in real estate.
No.
Wholesaling is a sales and marketing business. That's all it is.
The good guy, the ones that are extremely good at what they do, what Joe is saying is like enterprise value. Like I'm gonna throw a little shade. Like people quote unquote exit out of wholesale companies. Dude, you know, how do you exit out of something that needs to be managed by you?
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't have value.
It doesn't have any value.
Yeah.
And you can 1000% exit from a wholesale company if it
runs without you.
if it runs without you. That's simply what it is, right?
Totally.
But dude, Joe, I think any last word for just people that's watching this video, and obviously shamelessly plug yourself for anything that you want them to follow you on. I know you don't need much more followers.
Yeah,
but
no, I mean, follow me on Instagram, Joe Potenza 4. If anyone is a wholesaler that's really looking to scale, and when I tell people this, there's nothing wrong with wanting to make 200, 300 grand, run the business by yourself. Our ideal avatar of who we help is someone who's doing 300 to $1 million, $2 million bucks a year, if not larger. And we plug you into our ad system that is, in my opinion, the absolute best in the marketplace. Again, that's opinion-based. This is not factual.
Yeah.
But I will simply show you what is working in my company. I will plug that into your business. And if it doesn't work, we will diagnose what we need to fix. And that's why we have such low churn rates. That's why we've been scaling so quickly. And that's why we get so many referrals every single month, is it just works. And so that's me plugging SM3 marketing.
Dude.
Obviously, you're the man. I think if you're not going to run Google ads with me and you're going to run Meta, you better run with him.
Appreciate it, Joe. But I'm going to give you guys another plug. I think the biggest value that you can provide for people in the wholesale space, beyond that, you guys are amazing at ads, but in the end of the day, leads are just leads. Dude, you are phenomenal at building a freaking goddamn company, man.
I appreciate that.
I'm just gonna fucking leave it at that.
I appreciate that.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me on. It was fun.
Of course.
If you're a real estate wholesaler and you're not following Will's YouTube channel, there is so much free game on here that you literally don't need any other information to at least do your first couple of deals. So click the link, subscribe below, and follow Will.